Okay, welcome to the Crow Discovery Project. I apologize. The interview that I uploaded yesterday was cut off at the end, and I did not realize until I looked through comments this morning there was some problem with the audio file, so I actually had to re-record it with a microphone, believe it or not. It just would not load. So here is the ending to that interview. I think it's roughly 7 minutes to get to the end, and again, I apologize, but here is the whole interview. So there it is.
I was going to next get into some of the things you've been doing with your videos more recently, and that is you've been talking a little bit more about the secret societies and the path of the sun. Now, is this the same kind of sun worship thing that people like Jordan Maxwell have talked about how a lot of these controlling groups throughout the ages, maybe all the way back to Babylon and Sumeria and before, have worshipped the sun, and how Christianity is sun worship in disguise? Is that the same kind of thing you're talking about, or is it something different?
Well, first off, I want to state categorically that I'm never going to down any religion anywhere ever. When I communicate on my channel or anywhere else, I understand that people are coming from all over the world, and I further understand that what religion an individual happens to be has a lot to do with what part of the world you were brought up in. And while that's not 100% true, I think it's irresponsible to kind of tout one religion and down another. I think it's just more divisiveness that is used to control the masses. Now, to address the sun question, what I have tried to do is demonstrate that all the secret societies, if there was such a time as ancient Greece, if that has any validity, and there was such a thing as the ancient Elysian mysteries, it is my contention that what we see around us today, and everyone points to the Masons, even though the average person you see that's in a Masonic lodge is just a guy raising a family. This is all the upper level that we were talking about. They're encoding the path of the sun. If you go back and look at old maps, you will notice one thing very quickly. The equator, the Tropic of Cancer, the Tropic of Capricorn, the equinoxes, the solstices, and the zodiac are always marked on every single map. It was critically important information. And yet, in the modern day, this has been phased out. Anything to do with the zodiac has been belittled into something you get out of a fortune cookie, made to be a joke, yet encoded in zodiacal, equinox, solstice, path of the sun information. There is clearly something that is of utmost value that I consider to be the birthright of every person who's alive. Now, the reason they're encoding this, I'm not prepared to make statements on that, at least yet. But I have taken time to do videos even on Hollywood movies that demonstrate the predominantly Jewish-controlled Hollywood is encoding the path of the sun in movies in the same way the Vatican was encoding the path of the sun. And if you look at those two things, the Vatican would seemingly have nothing to do with Jewishness, and Jewishness would seemingly have nothing to do with Catholicism. I think it demonstrates that these kind of secret knowledge-based societies, or the ruling class, or whatever you want to call them, have a common thread through all of the high control structures, to include entertainment that go on in this world. And there is no doubt, it's demonstrable that the path of the sun is being encoded all over the place. And it's also demonstrable that the equinoxes are of huge importance, yet we're not quite sure why that is.
Yes, I guess that touches on the fact that these secret societies that appear to have been ruling humanity for thousands of years, as far as we can tell, they've always had a little bit more knowledge about what's going on Earth and outside of Earth, and they've kept that knowledge secret. And so they're probably using it in ways that we can't really imagine to retain their power base. And the path of the sun is definitely part of it. And as you said before, what's really interesting is that we're reaching the age of breaking boundaries now, and so it's all coming down. And it's exciting. It's exciting to be alive now because this stuff's all coming out. And yeah.
Well, to point out one thing that's kind of obvious on the face of it, it's kind of controlling time in a way, isn't it? To have this information encoded about the sun, the equinoxes, these are the true only divisions for the seasons of this world that we live in. When you hear on the news, oh, it's the first day of fall, what they should actually be saying is this is the autumnal equinox. Now, the calendar has been so jacked up that it's not always on the same numerical day, and that's by intent. It's for the same reason that our clock in this part of the world is shifted an hour. It's to pull you out of time, to get you kind of off balance. As the natural environment that we live in is shifted, they screw up our clock, and so it takes us half a year to get used to it, and then they do it again. But at the very base of encoding things like the path of the sun, that's what time is about. So, if you consider the ramifications of having control over time in that way, you can maybe begin to extrapolate how easy it is to control a society who has made decisions based on bad information from cradle to grave.
Yes, well said. Well, at this stage, we're heading towards the end of the interview, but I'd like to just pass it over to you to have the last word and to let us know what you're going to be working on in the future.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I am working feverishly to create a podcast site that I own solely. My main goal there is to be able to talk about whatever I want, to include hopefully generating enough revenue to run my own media server to run my videos so that I don't have to live in fear of being shut down or copyright violation. When you consider the amount of hours in a channel like mine, it's staggering. And to consider that someone can just pull the switch on that anytime you want, it's a bit criminal. But the podcast is going to allow me to talk about anything I want, and in the long run, it's going to allow me to serve my own videos. So that's the next big thing, and I'll announce it when it's ready on my YouTube channel.
Okay, and are there anything you want to plug, like your website or your blog or your YouTube channel, to tell listeners the exact link or URL?
Well, right now my main source of contact for the public is YouTube, and you can find me at Crrow777. Crow has 2 R's, but if you come close, I'm sure it'll get you there.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a really fascinating discussion, and we've got into all sorts of different areas, and we all really appreciate your research, and keep up the good work.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, Makia.
Okay. This has been Makia Freeman with toolsforfreedom.com and the Freedom articles. Thank you very much, and stay tuned for the next interview.